The reason people aren't financially free is they don't know what to do and they don't know where to start. I want you to join Joey and I at the Virtual Inner Circle Live, April the 4th through the 6th, as we share with you the exact answers to those questions. We only do this event one time per year. I don't want you to miss out. Go to wealthwatchwallstreet.com/live and enter promo code podcast. When you're at this event, you're going to get your investor DNA. You're going to get access to up to 6 different passive income strategies. So you know, leaving this event, exactly what to do, taking our decades of knowledge so that you can start becoming financially free. Go to wealthwatchwallstreet.com/live and enter the promo code podcast.
Wealth Without Wall Street Tribe, get ready to have Chris Prefontaine coming back for a second time on the show. Chris, so glad to have you.
Thank you. Well, we got to do it a little tighter than 4 years. I think that's how long it's been. So
way too long.
It's been wicked long, man.
Yep.
That's how long it's been.
Ross is on cue already.
All right. So the last time we talked, Chris, we were talking about how to buy houses on 0% interest. And I think how timely is it right now as people are looking at mortgage rates 6, 7, 8% range? How can we buy houses still at 0% interest or maybe just a fraction higher?
Yeah. Couple things. Timing wise, it couldn't be better, right? Because you've got a little chaos. You've got the rates that went up. Like, this is the time where, in my 33 years, creative real estate's never been this high demand. Like, communities of people calling, going, hey, teach us how to do this. We don't know how to do this. So let's hit the zero and this low interest rates. And I'll always give you guys real examples, right? We always talk about that. So my son Nick's looking for a house right now. So we said, great, let's take the 2 zip codes you want. Let's mail to free and clear homeowners, and we'll look for these free and clear properties so that we can structure monthly principal-only payments. It's that predictable. Now, here's a stat. I was on a show recently, guys, and the host said to me, he kind of challenged me. I said, 1/3 of the properties in the United States are free and clear. I've been saying that for years. He said, yeah, but with the rates that went down, I bet you it's way lower. And then I got a little nervous. I'm like, oh, shoot, I better check. It went from 33 point something, I don't know what the point was, up to 39 and change. It's almost 40% of the homes in the United States now are free and clear. So I was quite ecstatic. I wanted to call him back. So we have a big pool to fish in, big pool. And now what about the low interest rates? And then I can go back to any of this. I have a deal on my desk. I was telling you guys offline, literally, it'll get signed today. The interest rate's like 2.8, I think it is, or 2.875 in Florida. It was referred to us by someone that knew of what we do. That's what happens when you treat sellers the right way, right? The house is worth like 280. They got to move out of state. They're not behind. We're going to go ahead and buy that property subject to their loan staying in their name, but we're going to take ownership of the property. So we have a nice low payment. We have a heavy principal pay down on that. And we'll go out and sell that. You know, there'll be a delta in the monthly. And we'll sell it obviously higher than we're buying it for. I think we're walking into like 40-ish grand equity day one without even putting it on terms. So if I tell people, if you just learn this skill, grow a home for your family, you're supposed to be quite happy with you because these rates don't exist right now.
Well, you've got to learn how to buy things right. You got to figure out how to adjust when the market is ebbing. You got to be able to flow. And right now, when interest rates are high, most people are not in the market. So yeah. The supply is low, right? So now there's a real opportunity for those who are able to pick up the skill. So you started touching on some of the things I think we need to break down is, one, how to find it. So you're talking about your son, Nick, trying to find a house. Yeah. It sounds like you mail to people and you ask what question?
Okay, so we usually, let me qualify that. Yes, we're mailing for him because he wants to go find out, right? But this deal I literally have on my desk right here came from the normal way we do it, which is we have a virtual assistant who calls on for sale by owner, expired listings, for rent by owner, and she found a builder. And the builder's free and clear. So I happen to stumble upon that, and I'll work on that today for monthly principal payments. Or yes, you can mail if you have the resources. I just don't teach her out of the gate, Russ, because when I started after the 08 crash, I'd have 10 cents I'd have 2 nickels rubbed together to say I can go do a mailing. So I don't want to push people on that unless they need more leads or they want to get specific like my son is. So yeah, we buy a list. In this case, we said, give us these 2 zip codes, give us 3 bedrooms. You know, we honed it down so you don't get all these properties. I think we got 1,000 there, and we'll do some kind of a cheap mailing, maybe a postcard, but we'll also have the virtual assistant dial those and look for the ones that raise their hand. That's how we find them. No, not unlike most investors. Expired listing, for sale by owner, for rent by owner. It's kind of where we fish.
And so when you're reaching out to these buyers, what's that conversation sound like? Because obviously they've been getting hit on by most of the wholesalers and everybody else trying to buy it at 60 cents on the dollar and everything. Yeah. What's the conversation sound like, Chris?
What you just said makes our job easier, because they all go, oh, yeah. You're no, we don't want to lowball you. We actually will pay you market value if we can structure the proper term. So here's the conversation. People say, how do you convince? We don't. It's like if you and I were neighbors, Russ, and I saw your sign go out right in the yard, I'd probably curiosity go, hey, Russ, what's going on? Well, I'm moving. Oh, how come? Where are you going? Well, I got to move to Florida. I got a job reload. Oh, really? When did you need to be there? So you just ask those normal qualifying questions to see what the motivation is. And then it all comes down to, if the motivation's there, like I got to be at a job, or this house here in Florida, they're moving for a job in Texas. And you could tell they were antsy about, oh boy, I got to get this done. And if I pay a commission, I'm going to probably net nothing to a little bit. Whereas if they wait for their money, they're going to wait 4 years, but they're going to wait they're going to get their full equity. That's how I did that. I just went to their motivation. So that's the conversation, just natural. And then I just outright say, if you're someone that needs this cash to go buy something else tomorrow for your family, even if you took less, because you'll get less in the open market, then I'm not your buyer. But if you have time and you can wait for that equity, then I am your buyer. Now, these kids are going to Texas and they're going to rent. When I hear that, I go, bingo, they don't need that right away. Therefore, they can make more if they wait. That's exactly what happened with that lead. So you have the natural conversation, you look for the motivation, and you solve for whatever their motivation. That's it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this is music to my ears. Russ and I are just talking about literally the need in our area for midterm rentals. In fact, I was talking to my insurance agent yesterday, and I said, hey, tell me, like, what's the process? Someone has a flood, someone has fire damage, something like that. They call up your office. What do you do? He's like, well, we refer them to this third party. They help them find housing, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, how hard is it in Birmingham to find, 3, 4, 5 bedroom homes that people can be in for less than a year? Because that's the typical, 12-month leasing type of scenario. He's like, man, I'll tell you, I think it's pretty tough. He said, I don't deal with that directly, so I don't know exactly. He said, but it does seem to be a big need. And I think that there's a, prospect out there for that. And immediately, Russ and I are like, bingo, this is an opportunity, but I don't want to go pay like retail interest rates and everything else when there's so much opportunity, as you're mentioning, under our nose. And so what you're saying is, man, find the ones that have are owned free and clear, just so everybody can be on the same page. How did you determine that? Where did you find that information?
You can buy, as you guys know, data's not in Canada, but in the United States, very easy to get a hold of. So we have this number of different programs we use that you can just pull that list and then start pecking off the other criteria so you don't have a massive list. I want a garage, or I want 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, whatever it is. So online is the answer. Many platforms will do it. You also can go to the old style list companies like melissadata.com, where you buy a list, they send you the file, the Excel file, but you don't have to do that anymore. You just do it online. So that's how we pull it. But again, I can have the VA calling too, and that she'll stumble upon those like she did yesterday. I called the builder today and probably will cut a deal with them. So that on accident, just by calling around.
Wow. So it's as easy as getting a list in the specific area that you want to be, dialing for dollars essentially, but out during that conversation, you're just asking about motivation. You're listening. There may be a script to it, but ultimately it's just listening for that motivation and being honest. I love the fact that you said, if you're needing money today, I'm not your person, right? I'm not your buyer. And that sets the expectation from day one. Now it's like, if they want to go further, man, there's a really good chance that we've got an opportunity here. So talk about that to me is like, okay, giving people a clear path on how to do this or how to identify them. Now, as far as how you structure that deal, like what in your mind, you get somebody that says, yes, let's talk. What are the potential ways that you would look to structure a deal that would make sure that it's a win for all parties?
This is great, because I literally just got that lead right with the builder and the other house. And I walked out to the office and said, Sue, can you call up the comps on the rent and see what the rent comps are? So why am I doing that? And by the way, you guys, for your area, you mentioned that, rentals. you can do this with any asset class, and you don't have to exit right away. You can do the rental, like you just said. We've done 4 units, 6 unit, my commercial building. Like, it doesn't matter what the asset class is. This particular house, the builder said, I want 400. And I said, you open on financing? And he said, yeah. He's like retired vet, just playing around. He said, email me some numbers. Now, what do you mean? What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the rent comps. I just found out they're about 35. I'm going to call it 3,200. And then I'm just going to simply create a principal-only monthly payment to him that's somewhere in the probably $1,800 to $2,200 range, so I can make sure I can cover taxes and then have a spread. That's what I'll do. I'll also peek at, for the sake of me selling this eventually, I'll peek at what a $400,000 home with a 7% interest rate in today's market would be, what a buyer would think they'd be paying for that, so that I'm comparable. I want to look at rents and that. But that's how I come up with the numbers. That's how I structure it. And I'll email him this afternoon and say, I think I can get you, I won't say 2,200 because it's a round number, but I'll probably say something like, I think I can pay you $2,271 a month. It's a little bit less negotiable. And then if we get the deal, then we'll go to market with it at that 3,200 or 3,400 mark, somewhere around there.
And you're just so I'm clear, when you say we'll go to market on it, you're going to then look for an end buyer who's actually going to lease from you, or they're going to be paying you payments that are actually, mortgage payments in your mind. Like, help me understand.
Yeah. In our case, you can rent this whenever you want with it. But in our case, 98% of the properties we get like this, we're going to exit it rent to own. This is a huge demand here now too, because of rates. And we're going to look for 2 types of people. One, I just moved to a new area and I started a new job, or I left W-2 because I'm done with that chaos during COVID. I just want to work from home and be an entrepreneur. Okay, either way, you need 2 years of tax returns for the government. You need seasoning, the bank calls it. So we're looking for them, and we're going to put them in a rent to own where they're going to pay some number higher than I'm paying monthly, and then we're going to cash them out when they get their end loan. 2, 3, 4, whatever it is that fits within my term. That's our ideal buyer. Who else do we run into? Buyers that have legit life events where their credit got trashed. That was me in 2008. So I get it. I try to help people through that process where they can repair their credit over time. So they may not be as strong as a buyer at the beginning, but we can make them into one of those buyers by getting them mortgage ready and repairing their credit. So that's how we exit, but you don't have to.
So Chris, whenever you're talking to that person, you're trying to structure the deal with the seller, let's talk about that one quick second. So you mentioned in this example, hey, I'm going to look at rental rates. I'm going to find out what that opportunity is, figure out where my margin is. I'm going to go back to them with a $1,800 to $2,200 payment. And now you've got some spread. If you wanted to rent it, or at least what, if that person was going to rent that house in that area, what it would cost them. So that person knows, hey, this is a spread. Are you going to then if I'm the seller, I'm like, oh, well, man, $1,800, that's going to take, 70 years to get me paid off. Are you typically building in some sort of balloon to get this thing off the books? How does that look?
Yeah, I told this builder, just by talking to him when he's a little bit older, I told him hypothetically until I come out and see you, 48-month balloon. And then what happens is there's always a deal after the deal. We've had many deals where 2 years in, we call and extend it, or prepay some principal and then extend it. So some cool things like that. There's always a deal after the deal. But I started with that language of 48 months so he could just get his arms wrapped around what I'm talking about.
You said after I come out and see you, what does that look like? Tell me more about that.
Well, I'll email him just to make sure we're on the same planet, right? I'll say, hey, I'm in a range of 19 to 22 against your 400, meaning I'm not paying interest, right? I'm gonna imply 100% that these are going against the 400 purchase price, and I'll give them a 4-year term. And then I'll say, if you went to 7 years, I might go a little higher in price because it's all principal pay down. And then if this makes any sense, just even conceptually, I'll come out and see the property and we'll meet. And I kind of said it to him on the phone already, about an hour ago.
Is there any reason why you don't do the interest? I know you do the principal only. Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, 0% interest is better than any interest, right? And that's number one. But number two, think about this, guys. If I have at least a 4-year term, preferably a little longer, I almost don't care what the market does, because in that case, let's say it's $2,000. In 4 years, that's what, 48, 96. That's almost $100,000 in principal pay down before I factor in my payday 2 spread and before I factor in any price increase. So that deal, I can tell you right now that deal is a 96. That deal is probably $150,000, $60,000 deal on a $400,000 purchase. Think about that. The principal pay down component is very powerful. Let me give you a quick metric. I don't know if we did this before. This is for anyone anywhere in the country. When you buy a home for $200,000 or higher, or a property, and you structure at least a 4-year term, and you structure at least a $950 monthly principal only payment without 3 payday system, 6 figures, done. And it's not like you can find 10 of those a month. Don't misunderstand, but can you find 1 a month or 3 a year that would change your world? Yeah. Those are 6-figure deals.
If you've listened to our show for any length of time, you've heard us talk about infinite banking and how we were able to use that concept to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. But it's just not that easy to figure out, how does this all connect into my own personal system?
Stallion, that's why we created the passive income operating system, bro. It shows you how to turn active income into passive income. It makes all the steps come together. If you would like to get access to it as a podcast listener, we've never given this away in public before, go to what'swhatwallstreet.com/PIOS. There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, Pop quiz day. Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared though for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz.
I love this. And by the way, Russ, if you ever ask one of our guests, why would you do principal only? I may have to fire you from the show.
Well,
Dude,
well, I asked that question because really, we're baking in the interest into a higher payment, right? But I just wanted to know, I didn't know if there was sales tax or if there was any other factors I wasn't considering, right? Because that's one of the things that somebody's going to say is, hey, Chris, I'll give you the 400, but I want it at 8% interest, right?
Okay, so let's point that
and
out.
if your reverse was, I'll give you 415 at 0% interest. I'm just trying to figure out, is there another reason that I'm not thinking of that makes the deal more convoluted?
Yeah, well, let's do 2 things here. So 7% now is what? $28,000 a year. So I wouldn't increase my premium that much, but might I go to, like you said, 415? If I'm going to increase the price, and then I'm going to talk about a hybrid in a second, but if I'm going to increase the price, I want to eat that up in my brain. I won't say it to them, but I want to eat that up in about 3 to 6 payments max per year extended. I want to give, so if he'll extend 2 more years for me, I might give him, if it's $2,000 a month, I might give him 6 to 10 grand more. And I'm okay with that because it'll get eaten up over 3 to 6 payments. That's my logic. No set in stone, but that's what I'm thinking usually. And then here's the conversation. So we just sold our office building. I think, Joey, when we talked last on my show, I was in my office building. And I bought it in 18. And the gentleman was advertising owner financing, and realtors were coming with cash offers. He said, they don't understand it, Chris. I don't want it for estate and tax reasons. I want owner financing. So he gave, and I said to him, okay, he read my book. I left it with him before I bought it. And I said, principal only. No, he said he was a math guy, and he's one of the largest landowners in the area. He nearly fell off his chair. He said, principal only, Chris. I said, okay, then let's do this. We did 18 months of principal only, and then we took the balance at that point, which is pretty hammered down, and then we amortized it at like 5.2. This is back in 18, so it's a good rate from then. And then he gave us a 20-year balloon on our building. Now, we sold it in like 5 or 6, but he gave us a 20-year balloon on that. That's pretty cool. It's a hybrid deal. You can't get a commercial loan and hammer down that much principal in 18 months. So that's a pivot if you had to.
Oh, you know what I love about this conversation is we always talk about becoming the bank, right? The number one book that started this whole journey for Russ and I was Become Your Own Bank by R. Nelson Nash, right? And so to hear you speaking like a banker, you're literally thinking on the other side of how a bank thinks, and constantly being creative, though, because you're thinking about all the components that are at play and making sure it's still a win for the person that you're buying from. I love that. All right, so we've talked about how to find these deals.
One quick second, because he said something. Again, I'm just listening like the guy who's running on the treadmill, Chris. And when you throw out these little nuggets and you leave the cliffhanger and you don't complete it, I got to finish the loop. I'm like the guy who just finished his puzzle, but there's one piece missing, and he's searching the carpet, like looking under every single thing in the house to find that one piece. You said the guy who was selling the office building, he didn't want to sell it for cash because of estate and tax reasons. Tell everybody who's listening why that is.
Okay, there's actually, so in the estate planning, I didn't know why at first. He's since passed away. And I think now that I trace back some of the conversations, I think he knew something was up. And I'm sure he didn't want to leave his wife with a building in case it didn't sell at the time. Instead, he left her with a cash flow stream. That's just my gut, because he passed away like about a year before he cashed it out. And we kept mailing checks to his wife, obviously. Secondly, his son, he originally bought the building. He had it for like 20 years. He bought it because he thought his son was going to take it over when he came through law school. Well, the son got his law degree and went to Chicago. So he's like, I don't need it. He was sitting in this office as an appraiser, just playing around. And then again, I think it was because he thought something was up with his health. And then for tax reasons, a lot of people do it because all they're doing is they're taking a portion of their exposure for capital gains, anything above their basis. They're taking that over time. And he was adamant. Like he didn't put a prepaid penalty in it. And one time against my my practice, I actually considered, when the rates were dropping, a regular conventional refi. Now, I didn't, because that would have been stupid. We don't need to use banks. But I considered it. And he knew, and he's like adamant. I don't want you to cash me out. I know you can. So he just didn't want to be cashed out. And people think you got to convince these sellers. No, they sometimes it fits their game plan.
I love that. Man, this conversation is so good. Now, the only thing that could be like the cherry on top is to go through a specific deal, because taking concepts and applying it to some deals that you're working on right now even would help us be able to visualize exactly how this works. Because you talked about 6-figure deals, but I'm not certain everybody picked up on what the components are that make that up.
Why that would work. Okay, so I'll pick up this lead sheet right on my desk from that builder. He's asking $400K. Okay, Zillow, which is not always relying on comps, but just to give you a reference, has that 454. Okay. All I care about that is I don't trust their comps. What I care is the general public will go look at Zillow because they think that's where you go. They're not accurate. But I want to go bingo. The buyer's going to think it's worth 454 after that. Okay. So we go on and let's just say a 450. Let's use round numbers on all this. And let's say that I structure, again, I'm going to use round. I structure a $2,000 monthly payment to him, principal only. And the comps are coming up as high as 35. I think that's pushing it. But let's just say I go on at 3,000. There's 1,000 spread there, less insurance because my buyer will pay taxes. So let's just say there's an $800 spread. I'm just going to be simple here. Here's the 3 paydays. On a 450 house, I'm going to get somewhere between 45 and 90 grand down. It could be up front or over the term of the rent to own, but I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that 45 to 90 grand. Let's call it 50 just to be conservative here. So I get 50 grand payday 1. That goes in my pocket. That's like next month if I go on the market, or the month after that, the latest. So you get a nice payday. You're brand new, you got a 50 grand check. Payday 2, we just said we created an $800 spread. It's for 4 years. So what's 800 times 12, 96? Call it 10 grand. So 10 grand a year for 4 years is 40 grand. So you're 50 grand up front, 40 grand on payday 2. We're at 90 already. We already marked this thing up 50. That's another what? What's up to 140. It's a 140 grand deal on a $400,000 purchase. Most people go, I don't get that, because you can get, if I extend this, it's even bigger, more than 4 years. Does that make more sense, Joey? That's the 3 payday.
100%. And that's the deal you're looking at literally right now.
Yeah, I literally hung up with them. I record the call for our community. That's what I do. And I stick it on the scripts channel on the community so they can listen to it and learn. This happens all day long.
Talk about that you mentioned that, okay, so you're students. So obviously you guys are coaching people along this process. If I'm thinking about trying to learn this, obviously I can probably go watch 1,000 YouTube videos, listen to Joey and me ask completely stupid questions and leave out the real great questions that you need to be answering. What does that look like for a student? What is the challenge that if I'm going to be a student, how long is it going to really take me to learn how to be as good as your VAs to find the deals and to get on those calls? How am I going to get to where I've got that amazing New England accent that everybody wants to talk to and just want to know, like, how's the clam chowder? I want to know.
We don't teach that. It varies, and it varies by their sort of, I'll call it their why, but their goals too, right? Like when I started doing creative, that I needed a deal like I needed oxygen. So I whatever I had to do, I'd call and just scrape and scream and roll up my sleeves. Other people come in and go, you know what? These are super profitable. I think if I did 2 this year, that'd be really cool. And I'm okay with keeping my job. So everyone's different. We have an attorney that makes like 2 or 3 dials a day. He's running a law firm. So he just wants to get like 1 or 2 deals this year. That's okay. as far as how long it takes the average person who says, I want to get after it, we obsess over what's called time to first deal for us, TTFD. And we've got that at about 147 days right now. And that averages all the people that I just said, like the ones that are aggressive and the ones that could care less. So we don't lop those off and try to skew the numbers. It's about 100, call it 150. That's pretty good because there are some people that do it in 30 days and some people that take a year. And sometimes that's not skill set. That's baggage they bring. You know, someone came in, they recently lost their wife. And that, so there's just stuff that happens. You can't compare everybody to everyone else. Does that make sense? More goal driven.
Yeah. What's the biggest struggle that people have?
Biggest struggle?
To do it. Yeah.
It's the mental game, to be honest with you. So what I mean by that, pretty broad, confidence. So as fast as I can get them through the skill set of calling in the scripts, and they can learn that by letting me critique their calls and the coaches, we have 5 coaches, then they'll get their confidence. But it's usually a factor of confidence. The other thing that gets in the way, you guys probably know from your business and coaching, is mismanaged expectations. Because unfortunately, in real estate, every industry, there's some great marketers. And so you see the rented Lamborghini, the rented jet, and they tell you tomorrow you're going to have this. Well, it's not going to happen. So I have to unlearn some of that. Sometimes when people come in with me, I go, look, it's going to take some time. But once you learn the skill set, you got it for life. But don't think it's a get rich quick. It's a get rich real good over time, real big over time. So that's mismanaged expectations, unfortunately, from the good marketers out there. We want to do deals. I don't care. We're okay at marketing, but we're not great at it. We want to go out and do deals.
Tribe, I want to point something out that Chris is talking about right now. He said something very intriguing. You will learn this skill. You will have it for life.
Yeah.
When we talk about on the show that there's 5 components of every deal, right? There's money, there's opportunity, there's time, there's experience, and there's relationship. And that's the redneck motor, Chris, in case you weren't familiar with it. You know, that's what we call it. But the experience component is what you're talking about. Somebody who has been able to set up deals like this, there is no end to people that want opportunities like this. But you now have the vision and the ability to do it. Now, this doesn't happen overnight, to Chris's point. But Chris, you have some things that our tribe can benefit from. Like, what sort of resources? By the way, you can get all these wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/SREC. Smart Real Estate Coach is what that stands for, SREC. So wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/SREC. Chris, what kind of resources do you have we can put on there?
Yep, I'm big on free so that people can explore niches. There's a lot of cool niches in real estate. I happen to be biased to ours. So we give our books to specifically to your tribe. Those will be on there. And it's not one of those free offers that say free offer, and then you got to pay for shipping, because those are bogus. This is free. You will get hard copies from this office where I'm standing right now. We also do what I call master classes or workshops. These guys will put a replay in there for you. You can watch that. That's free for you. Then if you say, all right, this is cool, this is what I want to do, then there'll be some courses and other resources in there. But explore that first and see if you can get behind it, because I can tell you, you will multi-generationally change things for people, meaning you do one deal, you affect you and your family, but you affect a buyer and a seller too. Every time you do a deal, you affect 3 people. So it's a really win-win environment. If that's for you, we can get after it. But yeah, we'll put everything in there.
A lot of times people get confused with the conversation around passive, and something to be passive means it has to be active for someone else. And also it had to be active for you at some point, whether it was the activity that you did to create the money initially, right? And in this example, like you're talking about how to build streams of income, but you're going to do work on the front end to do it. And my guess is that the time and effort that it takes you to do a deal today is a lot less than it used to be 5, 10, 15 years ago when you got in this. Is that true?
Yeah. It's spot on, Russ. And also we're pickier with what we buy and who we put in it, because we've also had those speed bumps, right? That's just a necessary evil with entrepreneurship. And in our case, it's buyers and sellers. So you get better and better at it. Our 3 paydays used to be as low as 15,000. Then it went to 20s. Now it's at 75 for our family company. Our community has between 45 grand, and we just had a new record last week, 317,000 was just a payday 3. So now I have a whole new numbers to give out. But why? Because you get these little tweaks as you go, right? To your point, you live and learn, and you make these tweaks and these techniques, and my son Nick with the buyers and us with the sellers, then you get better and better. It helps them at the same time. It helps you.
Hey, We do live events and virtual events. Do you guys have anything like that? And if so, when's the next one? So our tribe could jump on something like that.
Yeah. So the next one is March 20, just I think a week or so away. That's virtual. And so that's cool. Everybody can do it. And then we do a live event. That's called the Wicked Smart Summit. And then we do a live one every September. I've been doing it since 2016 in the basement with like 12 or 14 people. Then we forget it. And now we're in the ballroom every September. So it's a blast. And hopefully everybody can be there.
And is that up there in Rhode Island? Where is that?
We were every year. We're going to be in Boston this year. So it's easier for everybody. That's in September. And again, the March one is virtual. So we're hoping to capture as many people as we can there and really get you immersed in everything that we're talking about here. Because obviously you can't just from this.
That's super cool. Well, Tribe, if you found value, take time to follow up on this. Go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/SREC. That's for Smart Real Estate Coach. And you can find those resources that Chris shared, as well as if you're interested in attending the virtual summit, he'll put a link on there as well. That's just going to be a couple of days right after this is aired. We're so grateful for you, Chris. Thank you so much for taking time and sharing with our audience.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate being back.
Thank you for listening. If you found value, share this with somebody else. Let them know that they need to be following this so that they can become financially free and on their path to that journey as well. Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.